Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Tech Friday right here on twitch.tv/DC Lasair. Glad you're here. I am, of course, DC. You can type !DC to get all the details of me in chat. So, yay! And today's Tech Friday, I have a guest, an excellent streamer, a fan of disco balls, and a DM, an actual play player. Urbanbohemian. Urbanbohemian, say hi to the peoples.
Hello, everybody. It's really fun to be here and in this little box. This is a new box for me. Streamers like get into a lot of different boxes and overlays. Like, this is a new box.
And for info regarding Herb, just type !guest in the chat, like I did there, and you'll get a link to all his thingies.
Indeed, yeah. Sorry, I am now closing my work laptop because as streamers, we also have day jobs.
What? We need other things to support ourselves? What is this?
You know, it's a bit surprising, but yeah, we actually do.
Wow.
I would love to live on emotes alone, but I cannot do that.
Emotes do not feed me. All right. So first thing we're going to talk about is one of my favorite bots, Streamer.Bot. And Herb, you just started playing around with Streamer.Bot.
I have, and it's slowly going to take over so many of the things that I do on stream. I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yep. And you just go to Streamer.Bot to look at Streamer.Bot. And it is a bot, if you want a little more functionality than Nightbot or MooBot would give you in a stream, and you want to drill down a bit, Streamer.Bot is one of the bots you can do that with. There's also Atom, Steven uses Mix It Up, and there is Sammy, Sammi, as well, are kind of my up there picks of bots, and then everything else seems to, in a way, copy those other ones, but those seem to be the ones doing most of the unique things in the space. And then everything else I'm looking at is pretty much just a variation on the theme.
Yeah, I think the strength of Streamer.Bot or Streamer.Bot, whichever you want to call it, is the one thing that it did, which is what I was previously using a bot, Streamlabs Chatbot, which itself evolved from various different versions of bots. It was using the ability to directly connect to OBS through WebSockets, and the fact that Streamer.Bot can now do that a lot more flawlessly and seamlessly. It's quickly taken over. As you know, I like to have one web-based bot, which for me is Nightbot, and then one local bot, which is now Streamer.Bot. I was going to call it Streamer.Bot because saying Streamer.Bot feels like a lot.
Yeah. It does feel like a lot. All right, so what have you been doing with Streamer.Bot lately?
The first thing I was able to do is, sadly, with a lot of bots, there's no, one thing I will talk about with Streamer.Bot, which I love, but with other bots, there's no good way to export your anything. Like, anything you do doesn't really export unless you're exporting it to a different update of the new bot. So the first thing that I did was I just replicated my very simple things. The bot talks about Twitch events, so follows, subscriptions, raids, any of the exclamation point commands that I didn't have in Nightbot. I quickly transferred those over, and those were fairly simple. It's just telling it to throw a message into chat, and then from there I started to grab some older things that used to work well with Streamlabs Chatbot that it doesn't work with so well anymore, or things that I had created integrations and multi-actions for in my Stream Deck, but for some reason every time Stream Deck updates and OBS updates, there's always this tiny bit of lag between the two in terms of it is milliseconds, but it's enough milliseconds that things don't quite fire off as fast as they did. So one of the first things that I did was very easy, is I was able to recreate my disco command, which essentially turns on two sources and plays a sound file for a duration of time and then turns them off again. And whereas with the Stream Deck, that was happening with a bit of a delay, with Streamer.Bot connecting directly to OBS, it now happens instantly. And I love that.
Nice.
And then I started to get a little more complicated. One of my raid messages, one of my raid welcome videos is me on a sequence of televisions. And what it is it's at its base, it's a video of a bunch of TVs with green screens. And then I reposition my camera to fit in them on the various scenes. And it was one of those things where the timing had to be really tight, and I would have to constantly redo the timing in Stream Deck because every update, every firmware, every software, it would just get off by a half second here and a half second there. With Streamer.Bot, everything happens instantly as soon as it needs to, and there was no adjustments. And it was still a lot of work. Just as much work as you would put into putting it into a multi-action Stream Deck, you sort of have to have the same thinking for Streamer.Bot, but testing it was a lot faster and it simply works a lot better. So for me, being able to do more things, and it's able to, I think you understand a lot better when you start doing things, and you've shown off Streamer.Bot before on stream, when you start understanding how it looks at how things on your stream happen, and how it looks at Twitch events, and when something comes in, and when a chat message comes in, or when a raid comes in, or when a subscription comes in, it's easier to say, okay, grab all the information related to that and then do stuff, whether it's grabbing the name or grabbing the number of subscriptions or grabbing the number of raiders. Like, it's a lot easier to now stick those into commands and chat. The one thing that took me the longest to do was creating an automatic shout out. And it's still not perfect. It's not great, but that was using one of the, and I think I'm in a similar state of you where I will do everything short of learning C#. Although, because I do a bit of coding in my day job, I might sneak over that line a little bit. But because I didn't want to learn how to code, and because generally what happens is people say, hey, can I do that thing that you did? And I don't want to give them a bunch of code and say, figure it out. So I'd love to do it without coding. And it was using a set of, one of the elements you can use in Streamer.Bot is essentially if statements. So if this, then that. And I set up a bunch of statements to say, if this person matches the username of the person who says something, then do this thing. Otherwise, don't. And it was just a lot of those statements going down a list, which works for me for now and would be easier to tell somebody else how to do versus giving them a bunch of C# code and saying, well, I just put stuff in there. I'm sure you can learn it. It's very basic coding. It's not. It's really not.
Plus, what you can do is if you wanted to share it, you can export that action and then they can import it into their Streamer.Bot.
Yes, that gets back to the love of Streamer.Bot is, yes, it's so easy. And when you start looking up tutorials on YouTube, a lot of them are iffy in terms of whether they're easy to follow. Some of them are just clips of people's streams. However, at the end of it, they say, hey, here's a text code that you can import this into your own bot. So you don't even have to watch me unless you want to know how to configure it. Just go ahead and import this into Streamer.Bot. It will create those actions for you, and you can do with them whatever you want, which I do enjoy. I'm now that I've figured out how to do what I do, I can export that and give it to DC, and he can immediately incorporate it into his. It's great.
Yeah. And if you want to see my previous talks on all the bots, I dropped my YouTube link in the chat. Just go there, check my videos. It'll be great. Trust me, you'll have a good time. All right, so
I'm telling you. People do not want you to know why DC's videos are so great. So you need to go to YouTube so you can basically find out for yourself. Find out what they don't want you to know.
All right, I'm going to switch over to a demo window so everyone can see Streamer.Bot and kind of what we're talking about here. So there we go. All right. And now Streamer.Bot here's the import export upper left I was talking about of the screen. And Streamer.Bot is divided into basically two sections here: your actions and your sub actions. Actions, just name it whatever you want, but you have to be consistent with that naming scheme throughout the whole entire thing. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Where the magic happens is in the sub actions.
And one thing it's almost like Legos or, whatever kind of other module. Well, what I usually think of is not Legos, but back in I'm going to date myself here. Back in the 80s, there was there was a clothing thing called, I think it was called multiples, where essentially it was just one piece that you could use with different types of outfits. And that's what the actions are. You can create these actions and you can use them anywhere. And then it's the sub actions within those actions that's doing the real work. And one brilliant thing is after you've created an action and you've created the sub actions, and the sub actions are the steps. What does it do? Does it fire off a message in Twitch chat? Does it look for who gave a gift sub? Does it activate a source in OBS? Does it play a sound? Once you have that, the great thing is then you can duplicate that action, because your follow alert and your subscriber alert are probably kind of similar. So let's say you created a follow alert, duplicate that action, rename the new action to subscriber, and then you can just go change the sub actions within it that you need to have it refer to a subscription versus a follow. And that's one of the modular things I really do like about it, is it's very much like I created one thing that has 5 steps that I know I will always use, and there's one step that I want to change. I can always create those same 5 steps and just change that one, and I'm good to go.
And we'll go back to the window, kind of show you what we're talking about here. So
they don't need to see what we're talking about. It's all in their heads. Figure it out, kids. No.
So, as you can see, what I have highlighted here is my !YT action, which gives you the YouTube message in chat through my bot. And so it's right here. If I go to edit it, here's the message. My YouTube channel is the best. Find out why by clicking here, right? And it says preferred account. So I have my Hatomancer bot set up to, so all the messages go through. Now I can set this so it's either my main account, so I'll say DC Lasair, blah, blah, blah. But I made a bot account on Twitch, and it's my bot account. And so you can make this whatever, and all you have to do for a simple Twitch message is once you've created an action, so right-click, add, and then this is where you name it whatever. You can type, if you want to group your things, you can either go in your predefined list of groups you've already done, or just type a group list.
And create a new one.
And it'll create a new one for you. Then you just right-click in here to start sub-action. So for the Twitch message, I go to the Twitch, and then chat, and send messages to channel. And that's all I do. And then I just typed in the message, I clicked OK, and now and then the other thing I had to do, because this is a command in my chat, and this is where the naming of the actions comes in handy, is that I go to commands, and then right-click, add, and now this is where I title the command that chat responds to. Whatever I name the action doesn't matter at this point, but this is where I put in !YT, for example. So we'll just show you that. So in the commands, and then action, I named it whatever you named the action. This is where keeping that name consistent comes in, is you click, make sure you're copying the right action here. And then every time someone hits !YT into my chat, my YouTube links come up.
And I think what's important and good about this is you can name those actions anything you want. So while I may not remember from one tab, even though they're 2 tabs apart, I may not remember what I named my YouTube. So I just named my YouTube action YouTube. And yes, my command is !YouTube or !YT, but I'm very much of a like, I don't remember what I called this. And another thing that was in that commands screen is you can assign multiple aliases to a single Like you can essentially put all of the aliases you want for an action. So while DC had exclamation point YT, you could do basically a comma or a line break and exclamation point YouTube, and that way you could define multiple commands that all do the same thing. For instance, I have social, but I also have socials because some of my mods use the socials command. So I made both of them point to the same action. So I only had to make the action one time, and it was nice.
Keep talking. I'm going to look for an action.
And
More complex
sure.
action.
And one thing that I do differently is when DC showed you we were on the action screen and he right clicked, wrote clucked. When he wrote clucked in the sub action field to add something for Twitch, not only do you have access to regular chat message, you also have access to use the announce feature. So I make mine announcements. I believe you can also tell the bot to send out a whisper if you want, but that's, I mean, depending, like if you're doing a giveaway or you have something that is lengthy that maybe somebody wants to know and the bot will whisper them, like maybe it's a link to a longer page. You could also create a Twitch whisper for that as well. It has access to anything that you could do. And similar to setting up any other bot, with Streamer.Bot, you give it authorization for your own user account, and then you give it authorization for if you have a bot account, whatever that is. So it does mean you'll have to sign in, log out, and then sign in for the bot account. But you do that with any other bot too. And I'm sure that just like other bots, it does last the 30 days. So in every 30 days, you'll be refreshing that connection. And I've been able to so far do some pretty interesting and cool stuff with it because it's interesting to figure out from a behind the scenes and looking inside how the food is made to let you know every single thing that's attached to your user ID in Twitch. And one of the more interesting things is they're attached to your user ID is the URL for your profile picture. So I've been able to now, when I shout out somebody or when I have an auto shout out, I have a set of badges that appears over me on screen. I'm able to tell the browser source that sits hidden over that to load someone's profile picture for like 15 seconds and then take it away at the same time they're being shouted out, because that's information that Twitch passes along with your username, and it's kind of cool. So you can do a lot. I've now also looked up a tutorial and I've started to learn my own. It's nice to have Streamlabs or whatever other web-based thing you do for alerts, but you can start building your own alerts because they're just a scene. So you can build them simple, you can build them, complicated. And if you're looking to simplify your stream overlay setup, because maybe it's just got too many things and too many alerts or too many sub-scenes, it's nice to be able to say, like, there's one scene that you could just make for all of your alerts and just tell Streamer.Bot to change the text each time. It's very powerful, not too powerful, because there's nothing you can, well, that's not true. It does have access to a lot of stuff, so you can accidentally mess things up. But if you stick to chat messages and, changing sources and turning scenes and sources on and off, you're in a good place. Don't have it doing things like changing your bio or changing your stream game or stream. Like, don't do that. That's advanced. You don't need to do that.
All right. I'm almost done setting up a thing. I had to change a couple things around.
Another thing that it can do, which I see because DC uses stream elements on his stream, when you start the stream elements will usually post a note in chat to say, hey, DC Lasair is live and streaming this. Streamer.Bot can also do that. It has an element in there to say when the stream starts, post this in chat. It also has an element to say when the stream ends, post this in chat. So maybe, and it's happened to me a few times, you've ended your stream and people have come in and rated you right as you've left. Well, when you basically hit stop streaming, the bot can post a note. It can do the whole Tracy Ullman, like, go home, like the stream's over, like you came a second too late, sorry. So it can do simple things like that. And one thing that if you get it set up, and this is where I will probably write down what I do so other people can see what I do. It's a matter of in your head charting out what you want it to do, what those steps are, and realizing what they actually are. Just saying, well, I want this to show up on my screen for 5 seconds. Okay, that's a source. You turn it on, you add a delay, you then turn the source off, and that's it. Now, maybe there's other sources. So it is a matter of remembering, like, okay, turn this on, turn it off, and things like that. My TV raid is a lot. Actually, oh, I should have sent it to you ahead of time so you could actually show it on screen because it's a lot of things. But yeah, it's a lot of steps. But once you realize what the steps are, it's like, okay, turn this on, wait, turn this off. It's a bit of flowcharty and it's a bit decision tree like. But if you're doing complex stuff, it does mean that you don't have to rely on any external anything. All you have to do is you can do it all locally. And I do feel like having one local bot and one web-based bot is great because the web-based bot, your mods can have access and they can change your commands like in Nightbot. And they can, although I realize now there's also a way that they can control your stream remotely as well because I did that with DC a little while ago. If you really have a mod who wants to get into being your producer remotely, you can do that. And honestly, you could set up a bunch of commands in Streamer.Bot that allowed somebody to be your remote producer. It's, they would just need to know what those commands did and they would just be for them. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, and you can also, doing that thing that Herb was talking about when he was here, you got to relate the Streamer.Bot account to a Discord account for that functionality to work. But you, as long as you have someone's Discord account name, you can add more than one person. So if one mod couldn't get to a button on time, just add. You don't need multiple decks for each individual one. You can make one of these decks and spread it out among multiple people and just give multiple people access to the one thing.
And as much as that interface was interesting, what I've also found, and I've done this before myself, is with Streamer.Bot, or honestly with any bot, you can also simply create exclamation point commands that only your mods can access. I now have one in my channel that, because we can toggle filters now, I have exclamation point green, which will turn off my green screen. And I and the mods have access to that. And that's something, I used to have a command where my mod, if I was in the way, could move my camera to 6 specific points on screen just because like I'd be playing and not realizing it. That's also the kind of thing where you can put a Stream Deck button on it. You can put a virtual deck that you allow a mod to remote into, or just create a command for it. And I think what I'm loving is something like Streamer.Bot. It doesn't come for Stream Deck. It's not saying like I'm here to replace you, and they can work really well together. But it is the kind of thing that if a Stream Deck is out of accessibility for you, you can also do a lot of things with hotkeys. You can do a lot of things with commands. You just have to remember what they are. And Streamer.Bot can actually sub in for that as well. There are also sites like Touch Portal. There's a phone one that you can use. So there's a lot of different options for it. And I think a good bot that you have locally can play a really good part in that.
All right.
I see scheming going on over there.
Yes, there is scheming going on here. Okay. All right. So, let's see if this works. Hey! And it goes away. That's not quite as elegant as what I usually have it, but it worked. So
Yeah.
that was an example of me copying I'll go back to the window here.
Because it's funny because I've been doing this so much, I already know what the steps are for. Yes, there it is. Oh, it's great.
So because it's usually just me, I have it in my host mode and my game view mode. So now I made one for guests. All I did was copy. I just right clicked, duplicated this, go to here, and on OBS source visibility state, as long as all the graphics and everything you need are still in that scene, I just edited these from the scene of being the host, and here's all of my scenes. But from host to guest mode, where what you see when Brian's on the screen is guest mode. And yeah, and it just sets the state. Then there's a delay, plays the sound, delay, and then it hides it again.
And something this simple, I feel like also just has a lot of key things to remember when you're doing this is that, you go find the source, make sure you turn it on. I almost always turn my sources off at the end of any routine anyway, just to make sure like I'm starting fresh. Sometimes what I do is even ahead of anything else, I turn off a bunch of sources and then put like a half a second delay before anything else because I'm like, just turn everything off just to start with. You turn the source on, you give it a delay, you add the sound in, and something with sounds and Streamer.Bot, and everybody will remind you of this, is make sure you uncheck the box that says play sound to completion. Because if you have for instance, say you're doing a disco thing and you have a 20-second sound clip and you wonder why nothing happened after it started playing the sound, it's because it's going to wait until the end of that 20 seconds before it does anything else. So uncheck the play to completion. And then maybe there's another delay and then it boops out. And what is also on the other end of that is what DC didn't do, but a lot of us now know to do is he played with the visibility options of that in OBS so that when that source becomes visible, it slides in and then slides out versus just appearing, or you can use the Luma wipes and make it do some cool stuff. It's really fun, and if you look up a lot of YouTube tutorials about, how do I increase, like basically how do I make something look cooler? A lot of the transitions that they now have for show and hide can make things look a little more interesting, a little more dynamic. The move transition is good. I don't use it to its fullest extent. I used to, and I think I just changed up how I did my scene, so I stopped using that. But for me, that's also the fun part. Is when I was coming up with that raid video with the TVs, it was first like, okay, let me create the video, and then I would start writing down timestamps to know that okay, every not 2 seconds, every 12 seconds, I think I would change the thing. So at every 12 seconds, I had to do this. But then I wanted a chat message to fill in the middle of it, so I had to stop and then redo the math and say, okay, well, after 2 seconds, do the chat thing, and then wait 10 more seconds. It was really interesting. And that kind of flow chart is going to be my next step of, well, I'm just going to do my own alerts that are simple, but they're there. And I'm going to start, maybe like, I haven't gotten my next raid video yet, but it's going to be a lot easier to do it now that I'm able to control it from Streamer.Bot.
And Streamer.Bot actions do kind of bottom or top to bottom instructions, where if you want to grab something, you want that to be at top, and then the next thing will say, okay, I'm grabbing. Oh, okay, I understand. I'm grabbing this because it's above me.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's a logical order, and you can also quickly, for instance, if you have a step in your item to make a source visible, you can right click and duplicate. I think you can also do Control D, and it will automatically duplicate that sub action at the bottom of the list. So sometimes if you're like turn it on, delay, turn it off, you can just duplicate that turn it on, and it will immediately pop that at the bottom of the list. Then you double click it and change it from visible to hidden. And it's very, very simple, but I have said there is a curve, and it's not really a learning curve, it's just an acclimation. Realizing this is how this bot sees, like Neo the Matrix, like this is how this bot sees things versus other bots. So it is not the simplest thing to sit down and understand, including installing it, because all you get is a folder and nobody tells you, oh, just put that folder anywhere. You're looking for like an installer, and they're like, no, just put it anywhere. And I'm like, oh, like anywhere? Yeah, anywhere.
yeah,
Could
I
have
mean,
you could have
have
made a
mine
note
in
for
my
that.
right. Yeah, I watched videos on this beforehand, so I kind of knew. But yeah, I have my Streamer.Bot right in my OBS folder, and then that way I always know where it is. I'm not searching for it. It's just it happens with OBS, and it's in the OBS folder. So
See, I put mine in program files because that's like my standard thinking. And they have with 1.19 with 1.19, it now does have an updater within it.
Oh yeah.
So you're able to now update it in place. You don't have to worry about reinstalling over it. Although with anything, they suggest that you back up your files before updating. But that's anything with OBS, with Stream Deck. You want to back up before updating because, as we've seen, Stream Deck will update and then nothing works for like a day. Or then OBS updates, and again, nothing works. But yeah, I'm very grateful to you for turning me on to Streamer.Bot because it solved a big hole in my stream setup. And I will say one thing you may have also noticed when DC was talking about, he showed that Streamer.Bot can see all of his scenes in OBS and it can see all of his sources. The WebSockets is why my old bot stopped working, is that OBS updated itself to a new version of WebSockets, which is WebSockets is the communication protocol that allows apps to talk to other apps. Or, like I said, if you opened up your home connection, you could let somebody else talk to your app from outside, but don't do that because it's dangerous. But it updated its version, and then my old bot could no longer keep up. So Streamer.Bot is like, I got you. It's fine. So yeah, I think the only thing, like I said, that's inefficient is my auto shoutouts, but I will still share that code and people are more than welcome to do whatever they want with it, which I love how there is this modding community that is sort of weirdly grown with Streamer.Bot, where everyone's like, well, here's my commands, but you can, once you have them, you can do with them whatever you want.
Yeah, that's excellent. And one feature I kind of like, Streamer.Bot has another bot that you can get called their text to speech bot. And so hopefully this works still.
Hi.
Ta-da. And y'all have heard the hi. So myself, and because of the chaos that Twitch streams can be, only myself, VIP, and mods can type exclamation mark, say, space, whatever you want after it. And then that is their text-to-speech bot working through Streamer.Bot and going out to my stream.
Brian and DC are awesome.
And if you go to
Thank you, Steven.
If you go to Streamer.Bot, right on the same page as the download for Streamer.Bot, there is a download for Speaker.Bot. So it's all embedded. Additionally, Streamer.Bot has a plugin that you can download for Stream Deck. And this is the other thing is if, like me, Stream Deck multi-actions they're just not quite firing off as quickly as you want them to. I was able to create that action in Streamer.Bot, and then because of the plugin, I now have a button on my Stream Deck that links directly to that action in Streamer.Bot. So it's like having a multi-action, except the Stream Deck is talking directly to it. So they're not really competing. They can work hand in hand very well. It's just I think Streamer.Bot makes it a lot more versatile to be able to create a command, do a button, do a hotkey. And again, if you watched a recent episode of DC's Tech Fridays, he talked about using your Stream Deck to access those secret hotkeys. So, like it doesn't go to 12, it goes to 24.
Yeah, do the thing. Watch the vids. Okay. And also if... sorry, Steven asked a question. She'll do a Google.
Oh, sorry. I'm answering it in chat. Like we're not live, taking live questions. That's so silly. Yes. DC, can you bring up now? I'm taking charge of this call. Can you bring up Streamer.Bot for us, DC? Let's switch over to that scene and take a look. I'm like,
let me hit the button.
This is my stream now, everybody.
There we go. Streamer.Bot is up for you, Herb. What would you like me to do?
So if you can go to platforms and then Twitch. So Streamer.Bot works with Twitch and YouTube. And so if you're streaming over there, you can also have it paying attention to YouTube. But if you go to platforms and then there's the first tab is Twitch, the second tab over is channel point rewards. And it now, as you see, it loaded in all of DC's channel point rewards right there. So you are now able, if you double click on one, you're able to, when it happens, you can then, pardon me, you can then have it, I believe. Yeah. Yes, you are able to now assign actions to it. So if somebody makes a redemption, like even interestingly enough, if you're playing Cult of the Lamb and somebody uses the contribute to cults totem and you maybe have a little image of a dancing lamb that says thank you or something, you could have an action that does that if you wanted. It's great.
And so as you can see, this is where you set the cost, and Twitch settings, make sure you have it enabled. The prompt, so if you hover over confetti. Now, some of it, because of this setup I have right now with Brian, some of these won't work, just because of the way I needed to put both of us on screen. That's a different issue, but confetti will work. Confetti should still work. But yeah, so confetti, and then again down here you notice action is confetti. Oh, it'll work when we go back to the other scene. Sorry, confetti
Oh,
is not on in this demo window. It should be on when I switch. But so you can
look,
see,
everyone's very excited.
yeah, you can see I have again the name of this where the name of the action is important. It's confetti, because if I go to actions, oops, let's cancel that. I go to actions, and then what was the group for these? This was, yeah, channel point rewards. So confetti, and as you can see, it's just turning on and off the confetti graphic I have in my other views. So if I were to go to game view, I just want to show you the confetti. You're not going to see anything but the confetti right now, or at least you shouldn't. So let's hit the game. Confetti.
Now, what's interesting is you have it turned on. Does it then turn itself off, or do you have to turn it off?
I didn't put it in a delay between turning it on and off. So it's basically just on. I have a button on my Stream Deck to manually turn it off, but otherwise that confetti is still going.
Just confetti forever.
Just confetti. Unless someone redeems confetti again, and then it'll turn it off because it's a toggle. So
Right, which that's another thing that in that DC is using toggle, which is another thing you can use for OBS sources. You can toggle them. I prefer to tell it to show or tell it to hide, but toggle is also nice. And again, oh goodness, hold on. I was going to go to actions. If you can go to like any of your actions and sub actions, to just show, if you right click and go to OBS, because it has access to set things for a lot of different things. It can change the scene, it can change your sources, it can change filters, it can mute things, it can do a lot of different things here. Sometimes, like, it even has the access to say, like, get the properties for something, because maybe maybe you need to tell something, hey, is this on or off? If it's off, turn it on. If it's on, turn it off. But you're able to do all of these different things. And one thing that you can do is you can set the browser source to something. You can set text. So if you have, like, one thing that they do, which is really cool and I use, is they have an element called first words. And what that does is anytime, and this is the unfortunate thing, anytime it is anyone's first time saying hi in chat, that is a condition that can trigger an action. And what a lot of people do is they have automatic welcomes. So sometimes, like, they may have like a VTuber icon, and when somebody comes in, a little speech bubble pops up and says, hi, so and so, like, welcome on in. Which I think is cool, but sometimes, you don't want that for every single person that says something, because some people are shy, some people like to lurk, some people are just like saying, hey, and that's it. So I was able to use that first words command to, if the person saying it is one of the following users, then give them a shout out. And that's something that I think is really cool. And, some people use it to welcome everybody. I would not do that because that would be a lot of work for my bot. But I loved that I could say, yeah, if it's DC or it's Tanya or it's Steven, give them an automatic shout out, and it's just done. And I love that. I could nerd out about
Yeah.
Streamer.Bot all day. I'm not lying. I could talk about like everything you can do with it because it does feel very daunting, and it is a steep acclimation curve to understand it. But it has access once you've, and this is like the fun thing, but also the scary thing. Once you've given it access to your Twitch account, it can see everything. So if you were using an external bot to do sound redemptions, if you were using a like GIF bot that uses channel point redemptions to throw things on screen, you could instead just point at that. And one thing that this has over some other bots is because it now knows exactly what your channel point redemption is, you don't have to have them at different amounts because some of the bots need them to be different amounts because it's not looking for the name. So yeah, or if perhaps the automated messages are not showing up for you, or you're on a different screen, or you're not looking at your dashboard, you can tell Streamer.Bot too, when somebody makes a redemption, paste the name of the redemption in a chat message as well. That way you won't miss it, your mods won't miss it, and the person will know like, hey, my thing got done. Like that to me is cool just to have those extra backup kind of things because I never look at my dashboard. I mainly have one screen. So if I missed it, it'd be nice to look down and have the thing say, hey, Urban Bohemian, somebody asked you to answer a question about Star Trek. And I'd be like, great, gotcha, done. And that way I don't miss anything.
Right, okay, and since confetti was redeemed again, I'll quickly go to the game screen, and confetti should be off now. So see, you see nothing.
Just the black void of your own existence.
Exactly. So, and that's the difference between toggle and hide and make visible. So yeah, brilliant emotes. Love them.
There you go. So yeah, I think it's really great to be able to fine tune stuff. And I use I was going to say the wrong thing. I don't use Stream Elements. I use Streamlabs for my events, and I use them for that. And now, if I don't want to replace them, or rather, if I do, I can replace them with very simple alerts. Like, for instance, maybe I'm demoing a game and I don't want my big screen alerts with like music on, but I want something to happen. I can make a much smaller alert and I can put it on that has no sound, and that will show up that way. The big alert's not in the way of the screen. I completely lost what I was about to say next. DC, say something.
All right, that's okay. So now Streamer.Bot works a particular way, and maybe that way isn't great for you. That's okay. I definitely recommend Streamer.Bot, and this channel I'll mostly be showing you Streamer.Bot until there's some other great big bot that's like, no, this is the way. But there are other bots out there, like I said, Atom and Mix It Up and Sammy, and they do the same things, but the language they use to do them is different. And so maybe the way they do something is more appealing to you. There are plenty of videos out on YouTube showing all the different bots. So go there, and like I said, if Streamer.Bot happens to not work for you, check out some videos on those and see if another thing makes more sense to your brain.
Yeah. I think somebody mentioned in my stream when I was talking about it a new bot called Firebot that was created by streamers. And I believe that has a much easier kind of interface in terms of like you don't really have to know coding. So that was developed by streamers. It's also free, and I don't know if it's open source, but it's free. So that may be something else as an alternative, because that I think is the barrier to entry for a lot of these bots. Is they're very powerful, but you install it and you're just staring at stuff. And honestly, Streamer.Bot is leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of places for this. The documentation is lacking, and you have to rely on YouTube videos because somebody else has finally figured it out and tried everything. Streamer.Bot is pretty good at giving you all the documentation. The YouTube videos just help round off those corners so you understand how to implement it.
Yeah, and Firebot, I know of Firebot, and I didn't bring it up because it works a lot like Atom. So again, going to the
Okay.
these bots work this way, and then other bots just work similar to these bots, and so, but yeah, so Firebot again, if that variation speaks to you, by all means use it, and you can do many of these things we're talking about. Maybe not exactly in the same ways, but you can do it. And if you want to get your streams past stuff Nightbot and MooBot and things like that, do check one of them out. And any other thoughts? Otherwise, we will take questions on Streamer.Bot if anyone in chat has them.
Yeah, so many thoughts, but I need to be stopped talking about it because I have gotten the fever. I've gotten that creative urge, and this fixed a lot of things that my old bot wouldn't do. So I'm very much like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I'm very, very excited about it. But yes, I would love to stop talking about it and maybe find out what other people want to know about it. Otherwise, I'll take over the stream once again. I'll be like, so here's all the things you need to know.
So yeah, we'll give a few seconds for any questions on it. If not, we'll be taking a break, and then when we come back, we'll be switching topics here. So anything about Streamer.Bot you need to know, let me know. I support all this enthusiasm. Excellent.
Yay.
Or be enthusiastic about Streamer.Bot more.
Oh, goodness. I'm trying to think of the coolest, one of the coolest things so far. I think the coolest thing was realizing that it could change. It could change a browser source. And it is, again, it's the kind of thing where depending on how active your mods are or not, some of your mods are okay being more producer mods. Some mods are okay, like, you know, keeping the chat going and being social. Some mods are okay being like moderator mods. But I thought about like one of my scenes is just sorry, my brain stopped. It's just me with a web browser, and it's just me and the web browser, and the browser is it's a browser source that pulls that in. And I realized like I can make a command in Streamer.Bot that would, if I'm talking about something, or I could basically say next slide to a mod, and they could type a command with the URL behind it, and that would change the source that was behind me. It's, a use case you wouldn't need very often. But again, it's the kind of thing where if it's something where you can hand off in your behind the scenes Discord channel to your mods to say, hey, when I say this, can somebody click that for me? That would be kind of fun. And yeah, it would allow you to do things. It can also, like these can also take, Streamer.Bot can also take moderation actions, or when something happens, it can send a message in chat, which I would like to find out, because sometimes AutoMod handles things. Oh, there's another thing that I thought about, but I'll get to that in a second. And then I will stop talking because we don't have any questions, so we got to take a break. If you take a moderation action, it stores whatever the action was or whatever caused the action. So maybe you don't know what word AutoMod didn't allow. You can have the bot whisper you whatever the word was in that moment, and you can be like, oh, okay, don't worry about it. The mods being excessive, or oh, that was really bad, etc. Ads, it can run ads, and it can track whether you scheduled the ad, whether you manually ran the ad, or whether the ad was automatically run as a mid-roll. It can also tell you how long until that ad's about to start and how long the duration of the ad is. So for instance, if you wanted to have a little timer on screen that says, hey, I know there's a mid-roll ad right now, it'll go away in X number of seconds, you could have that. And that's it. I'll stop talking now.
All right. Speaking of ads, let's roll into some. We'll go to break and be back in about 5 minutes. So see you soon. There'll be BRB screen, some ads. Stick around. It'll be great. We'll be back. See you soon. Welcome back, everybody. And welcome back to Tech Friday right here on twitch.tv/DC Lasair. That's me. Today, I have guest Urbanbohemian. Yay.
That's me. I'm going to call out DC right now, though, because his 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown is not evenly spaced. It's not like it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Rude. That's all I'm going to say is it's rude. I was like waiting for a nice even, like, oh, we're right. Hi. And you worked in production. You know better than that. That's rude.
Hey, I got to make sure I'm ready to hit the button. Plus, it gives
It's
you
me.
that moment of suspense. Just when will it happen? When will it happen?
Well, I mean, you've seen us. I mean, you've seen us on Rivals. Like we start, well, at the very least, like a lot of us will start waving and doing the high face before you hit the end because we're just like, we're not going to get caught out. Like,
And then I want to give a little time for the waves because I don't want wave and I hit the button and then end because that's too quick. I want people to be able to experience the waves and have a nice transition out. So
hmm
all right. So we were talking about Streamer.Bot. Again, if you have any questions on that, please put them into chat and we will get to them. Once we start the next segment, they will probably be more towards the end of the stream. But please ask on that. We are going to talk about a specific thing about the Creator Summit, the D&D Creator Summit, which we were both virtual attendees of. And if you want larger opinions on it, I have a YouTube video right there. So go to that, and you can get full wide opinions on it. Herb has a multiple tweet threads on it. There are multiple tweet threads out there. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about a specific point of tech used during the summit and our experience with that and kind of other things along the line. So, and because this was mentioned on Twitter, it's no secret that the summit was powered by Teams, which didn't work so great.
No, it did not. I do now from our breakout rooms. I understand that this was. I don't know if it was the first time they were trying to use Teams, or it was simply the first time they were trying to use it on this scale because Teams is everywhere. Like I use Teams at my day job. Both my client uses it, the company I work for uses it, and one frustrating thing for me was that my company uses it. Now we are an IT company. We use it on a much larger scale than they did, and it works for us like every time. So that's where my frustration came from. But yes, in terms of robustness and flexibility for being a first time for something of that scale, it was not a good experience.
Yeah. And I do want to mention that their tech team was brilliant. That they managed to get us a signal, even though some people had to go on iPads and other things to get the full experience, because between what they were doing, teams working on all of our systems, right? Because none of us had, we were on PCs, Macs, other things, so it could have been teams interacting with that and whatever. The tech team did a really good job of trying to give us the best experience. I did read a tweet from someone there saying that the tech team was disappointed that they couldn't give us a better experience. And I know that frustration because you want to deliver a good product going out to video. And so big props to them on doing the best they can with what they had. That's what seemed to be the case anyway. And it just wasn't the tool.
No, and I have thoughts that do veer a little bit off topic in terms of like when you say doing the best they could with what they can. The resources available to them are such that this experience I don't think should have been like this. But at the very least, there would have been ways to get around this ahead of time by sending everybody and saying, sending out a quick email to all of the attendees. We're going to be using Microsoft Teams. The best experience for Teams is if you have the app downloaded. Here are limitations if you're using it on a mobile device or on web. You may not be able to experience the full, chat room, all the video feeds. Having that ahead of time, but I do know that I was in there with people who, they were told it would be a web interface, and they were expecting something similar to, I would say, Meet, because Meet is probably the strongest simply web-based video conferencing software out there. I think they were expecting a experience similar to that, and it didn't happen.
No, it didn't. And there was a whole bunch of reasons, like we don't know where the decisions to have to use Teams came from, or anything like that. But we were able to see here, and once I downloaded the app, my experience was fine. Others not so much, and so there are some variation on experience, and I know that's one of the things they're working on, because that was also mentioned on Twitter that they
Yeah.
want that to be a better experience for people.
But yeah, for something like that, if you're going to use that kind of software and you're going to do a hybrid of in-person and virtual attendees, I mean, where I work now and have worked, the entire room is dedicated to that. So the speakers, the microphones for the speakers are basically routed through a mixer that goes both to the room and also to whichever laptop or computer in the room there is. There's a dedicated camera that's also connected. So everyone gets the same experience. And that for us, even with automated captioning, which Microsoft Teams does very well, when somebody was not looking at the feed mic, or I don't know, I'm pretty sure it was definitely a microphone, because the way it was also clipping, which I was like, some people were in chat were actually giving them, they were saying like, hey, this is a thing that's happening, maybe try undoing this. So they were able to incorporate our feedback on the fly. But it's simply like the most professional and kind way to say is that the digital attendees did not get the same experience as the in-person attendees, because the tech side of it simply wasn't up to snuff. That's the nicest way I can say it. I had a lot of less nice words the day of, because it was
frustrating.
It was very frustrating to try. And I mentioned in a thread earlier, like I was already having to split focus between work and listen in on this, and there was no agenda ahead of time. There was no run of show. There were no expectations, so we weren't sure what we were going to get. So to then show up for meetings that essentially was just the attendees saying, has anyone seen anything yet? Do you see? It was interesting being a Twitch streamer watching the chat for this, because it was very much like when a streamer has a tech problem and everybody in chat is saying, can anyone else see anything? Is it dark for everybody else? It was like that. And everything started later than originally planned, which meant things moved later. I know I couldn't be on for the afternoon session, but DC, you mentioned that the afternoon session went much later than originally planned.
Yeah,
and also because of the extra session that they kind of tacked on.
Yeah, the whole thing was 9 hours, and 9 hours is exhausting. Doing anything. But the PM session went till 6:30 PT. Yep, and that wound up being like 9:30 my time. So
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot, and then it was exhausting in person, and we'll share those thoughts not in chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. You had a.
I think, I think that's the overall, and I appreciate that, when they invited in-person people, and I don't, because they did staggered invites. Like, this is again a little bit off topic, but I don't really care. If people are going to be haters, they're going to be haters. They announced it. They had staggered invites, and if you were in one of the earlier in-person invite groups and said back to them, "Hey, I can't make it," they said, "Great, we'll get you in the digital experience." It should, but there was nothing else beyond that. And then the invite showed up, and that was it. And I said, that's when it would have been a good point to give everybody a tutorial to Teams, explain that we're sorry to make you download an app, but if you should download the app for this, I have a government and corporate account in Teams, but because I don't have a Wizards account, I couldn't use my Teams application to watch. So I still had to use the web. All of those things, I think if they'd gotten ahead of them, and also just been honest with us and said, this is our first time doing something of this size, at this scale, using this software, we're expecting glitches, and we ask in advance for your patience, there would have been a lot less there. Like, I would have had a lot less. I know that my frustration came from the fact that so many of us put a lot on the line just to even talk about attending, that when we get there and it didn't work, I was heated. I was very, very, I had DMs open with multiple digital attendees, and we were all very much like, we just love for this to work. We would love for this to work. And it didn't. And until it did, then they got it going for the afternoon session, which unfortunately I wasn't able to attend because I had other things going on that day.
Hmm. And yeah, but the solutions people found to do it, they had to use throughout the whole thing. So people still on both, their computer and their iPad still had to use them. But by then, everyone had what they needed to participate, and so most of them could continue on because we already had experiences for a few hours, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, how would I do this? And I'm thinking, okay, so I would set up all the sources in OBS, turn on the virtual camera, have that virtual camera go out to, I don't know, if it was a Discord, if it was Google Meets, whatever, have Discord on. Then that way I could have the the one thing over in this corner, the I am losing names here.
No, well, you would have been
The
able to bring
translator
in
one thing,
multiple,
yeah,
right.
multiple
You've been able
sources
to bring
on
in
one
multiple
screen.
video streams, but also, as you've mentioned in a previous Tech Friday talk, which again, go to DC's YouTube, !YT in chat, using the virtual camera would have allowed to, depending on the software, because some softwares do not like sharing the camera, and they should all let you share the camera, whatever. You might have been able to multicast on different services and make it a little bit easier.
Hmm.
I I'm trying to think of the last time I was in something that had that many people, and I believe they tend to use Zoom. Again, I've had people use Teams and it worked fine, but that's again they had experience with Teams on their end, so they knew how to deliver it at a large scale. And I think that yeah, it was very much a yeah. If you had all of your sources through one production software, OBS is great for that, and then you had that one thing doing the visual work, I think it would have worked a lot better to just send that one unified screen as your outgoing. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and so if you're doing this, like they had team just to kind of understand this. So Teams is open, right? It's working, and it's getting how many ever people, different connections, pinging that one connection. So suddenly you had, probably a larger group than you're used to dealing with Teams, all trying to ping the same resource.
And having it and also having it where, again, we as digital attendees weren't sure if we would get to talk, to be on camera. Like they didn't really tell us ahead of time, like, oh, you're going to get, you're going to get to have breakout rooms. You're going to get to like have your microphone turned on or off. We didn't know that. So some people were set up ready to hang on and be on a video conference. Other people were just ready to listen to what I thought was just going to be a presentation. And yeah, you had a lot of moving parts. And I don't know because I don't know anybody in Seattle, sorry, in Washington, not Seattle. I just want to go to Seattle. That's, everyone does. I don't know anybody there in tech. I don't know if they did tests. I don't know what their tests were like. I would like to hope that they did, because that's usually my first question for anything is, did you test this? And if you did you do it at scale? But yeah, it was that you had a lot going on. And the harder part also, as DC also knows, is watching this as a streamer and having run so many like massive meetings or presentations or having a lot of people on a call. It's hard for us not to also sit there and say, wow, we could probably have done this better ourselves. Not that we could, but it's hard to get out of that thinking of, wow, like
Hmm.
this isn't going very well.
And we also know, being streamers, that we can test till the cows come home, and the moment we actually hit live, something else will break entirely.
Oh yeah,
And,
definitely.
and so there's that too.
So yeah, I think they did their best, and the main thing that they did, which is during any like failure of a meeting like this, is they had someone to come on and tell us what was going on. And they absolutely did understand our frustration. They shared our frustrations themselves because everybody just wanted this to work. And hopefully if they do this again, they will now understand where they went wrong with Teams. They'll be able to have some lessons learned from this, and they'll be able to improve it next time. Or, they may instead, this is the kind of thing that even with, it wasn't really an NDA, it was a soft NDA, it was like NDA light. This is the kind of thing that might have been better contracted out to a company that actively does events like this, and that way the tech would have been in their hands. That would have been something I think that if they think about doing it again, hopefully they'll consider essentially hiring somebody who's an expert at this. That way they can then focus on what they need to focus on, which is information and access.
Exactly. All right. So
See, that was very nice. That was nice.
Yeah, we did pleasant. We were good, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotions going around about it,
Yeah.
and in the moment, it was the thing that made it harder for digital attendees is that we also were riding that emotional high that had been built up to this, and then that it wasn't working. So yeah, it felt rougher. And also, I would say because of using Teams, they also needed a better way to moderate virtual attendees feedback versus in person. There was, it was eventually, I understand that was also worked out, which was fantastic, but they weren't doing a good job at balancing the chat pod with the in person for those events that were being held in a hybrid environment. And again, that's something that maybe they took notes on and they can think about in the future.
And yeah, they've also been pretty clear, as far as I can tell, with post communication, that this was the first thing that they did. This was their first attempt at it. So if that was maybe made a little more clear and things like that, that would have been great. But that this was step one, if it were. This was their first time going for it. So hopefully there's more, and it gets better from there. Like I said, we're not going to go into much about what was there. I posted my YouTube video in chat about my thoughts on it. Go to Twitter, read Herb's tweets on it. There's a bunch of Twitter threads on more specifics about the D&D Creator Summit if you want to seek them out.
And I do hope that, and that's one thing I will say that they said when we were there, is they're already, like, just because of what they had experienced that day, they're already planning their next, like, not planning, but they're basically already planning to have another one. And a big part of that, if they do open up for feedback ahead of time, is I will have a lot of notes about, essentially, if you're going to do this, treat it like it's an event. Even for the smallest of work meetings. Like, I have to have an agenda, I have to have my slides ready, I have to know what I'm going to talk about, and I have to be able to moderate feedback and questions and address it. A lot of those things weren't quite in line for this event. So even not just the technical side, but also from a presenting technical side, they need to make sure that those pieces are in place if they're going to do this again.
All right, and Cypher Tier in chat, but they did take in-person feedback seriously, and we hope they will listen and do better. I had a chance to talk to the CEO lead and gave a lot of feedback. Excellent. Glad to hear it. Love that. And so, if you have questions around technology of kind of doing this type of thing, feel free to ask that right now. If you have questions on Streamer.Bot, feel free to ask those. All right, we'll take questions as long as it kind of relates to the tech of the thing.
Yeah, I've been on a lot of Teams meetings. My main company basically uses Teams for all of their all hands meetings, which is like 1,000 people on a Microsoft Teams call. So Teams doesn't suck quite as hard, although if you ask Daniel Kwan, he may have different opinions, but he actually works at Microsoft, so that's very different. But it doesn't suck quite as hard as it sounds. It's just that, again, when you are ready and you've got the scope and you're ready to go, it's on. But yeah, I've been in a lot of teams meetings, so rolling with the punches wasn't difficult, but it just felt like, and we would see in some of the call out sessions, like there was a tech behind somebody who was basically like giving them the thumbs up or the thumbs down. So yeah, it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
It's a lot. There's a lot
It's
there.
hard. It is hard to talk about it in neutral professional terms because of everything around it that wasn't neutral and that wasn't professional. However, I, like a lot of people, are willing to give them a chance and want to see them do better and want to see them improve. So I would like it if they do another event. If it's something I can attend in person, that would be lovely. But if they do plan to have a virtual component to it, I really hope that it gets better next time.
Yep. Same here. Just a second here. Talk. Go ahead and talk. I gotta clear my throat a second.
Oh, well, no, I was going to make he's going to put this on YouTube, so I can't make like a really bad joke, but no, it's fine. It's gonna
No, go ahead.
it's like, let me tell you kids where Jimmy Hoff is buried, but I think they actually found, I feel like they found where he might be buried though. It's not like finding like King Edward in a parking lot. Like it's not
Right.
like that, but that'll be the next big thing is they actually do find that. But yeah, it's really hard, and I think everybody who is especially a digital creator understands how hard it is to get tech for any live event going. So the expectation was simply, what built up the expectation for me was because it is a large company, and based on that, one would assume they had the means and the resources. And sometimes you find out that it's not that. Richard, sometimes you find out it's not that, and they aren't ready at all, and they haven't put any thought into this. And yeah, I think simply like we say, the next time hopefully will be better.
Yeah. We're hoping.
I'm gonna stop talking now before I say what I really think. Okay.
Yes. King Richard III was found in a parking
Yes,
lot.
that's it.
Yes.
I'm sorry. There's a new series that I think talks about the woman who, either a movie or a series that talks about the woman who like discovered that he was there. And I keep seeing ads for it, so that's why that was on my mind.
There's a brief documentary you can find on YouTube about a person discovering that and what they went through and how they narrowed down. Well, here's where this used to be, and so when we found this, we started narrowing it down, and then they found the remains of Richard III in a parking lot.
As one does. Yeah, I mean, I can only hope that when our remains are found, that they'll still have cars and the means to power them. So, doing pretty well, honestly.
So yeah. And Herb, if you do want to say something, go ahead. I don't want
I want to stay focused on the fact that we're talking about the technical and the technological aspects of it, and people in chat know how to find me, and DC absolutely knows how to message me, and we can definitely talk about it more later. Which is why I will simply stop with, let's hope that next time they get their stuff together.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next topic then. Unless there's any other thoughts. So, nothing we want to say right now.
Oh, goodness.
We stirred a hornet's nest again without.
Yeah, no, considering that, like I said, considering that these are going to be on YouTube, I don't want any mention of it to be found by the people who were making content who specifically do not know what took place. So that's why it's like, yeah, I prefer to stay neutral for this video. If somebody wants to do a different video, we can talk about it there.
Have us on. We have other thoughts.
But I think what else are we going to talk about today?
So
I had the list here and I completely forgot it.
something that I got an email about yesterday is YouTube getting into podcast territory. And you can be able to take one of your playlists and make it into a podcast right on YouTube. Now, you're not going to want to do this with every playlist because maybe when you made the videos, you weren't thinking audio only. Like I do a bunch of tech demos, there's a bunch of different windows. It's not going to make sense for some of those to be a audio podcast because I need you to follow along and look at what's being done on screen. But if you have content that will go for it, you can now make that into podcasts and it will appear up on YouTube.
I am curious about this, and I mean, I see no reason why not. What I'm wondering about, and I'm reading a 9to5 Google and a Chrome Unboxed article about them right now, is if they're going to encourage, like, I mean, a lot of YouTube videos are already out there. To make playlists of your things and turn them into podcasts is interesting, but are they encouraging people to, edit them down to what feel like podcast bites? Is there now an easy audio like, are they basically coming for audio as well, or is it still going to be video based podcasts? It's interesting because if they were to do, for instance, like Rivals of Waterdeep, we edit down our audio and provide it on a podcast service. If we were able to look at the playlist of a season and then say, okay, take all of these and make them a podcast, if it said, okay, here's your audio, that would be fantastic. But if there's just still videos, then it's a podcast in playlist name only. Yeah. It's not really a podcast.
The video, because the email came directly from YouTube that I saw,
okay.
And they had a video in there, and yeah, it'll just be audio. So you could use it for archiving your
that's interesting.
Your stuff. Like I said, you want to think about the content going in. If you have a content with a lot of visual stuff, then you'll probably want to skip that for some things. But things that are just fine, where you have the audio, by all means, start doing it. And you can create a podcast. It doesn't just have to be off a playlist. You can make a podcast, an audio podcast. Let's see, Steven, I know some folks who do video podcasts on YouTube and then download the video to put the audio up on iTunes. So maybe YouTube want to be the iTunes. Very good possibility.
It's interesting because, YouTube also would allow you to have, essentially, YouTube would allow you to have an RSS feed, basically, of that playlist, which is something that you could then point other services at. And it does sort of, and yeah, I mean, it's a tech company, so they're doing a thing to cut out other tech companies. So doing this, they're kind of shots fired at iTunes, shots fired at Spotify, because I think Spotify and iTunes have really been duking it out over who's getting like the podcast market. Spotify prefers to cater to personalities, whereas iTunes tends to just say a matter of scale, like who else are you going to go with? All we do is audio, so come with us. So basically adding one more contender in the mix. I mean, capitalism sucks and they're all awful anyway, but adding one more person in the mix is interesting because YouTube feels like a much more accessible place for people, especially those who are already used to using it.
And this also goes after something like Spotify, who does Anchor.fm, which encourages people to do audio podcasts through them and then distribute it everywhere.
Interesting. I see that basically, I'm not sure how the announcement, if it was probably introduced to some people ahead of time, because I do see that some people already have podcasts up. Some larger channels already have podcasts ready to go. So interesting to see how this goes down. And honestly, more options for people, especially interfaces they're already used to using and that they already find comfortable, is better. So that's great.
And one of the things they pointed out in that video is that, use your previous content to make podcasts with. You can just point it at a playlist, and it will take care of that whole playlist for you.
We're going to have to give that a try. Huh, interesting. Okay.
So, yeah. So, not only do they want you to make new, they also want you to take what's already there, which is kind of a brilliant move.
I'm due, and of course now, and you and I hopefully you can share the link, or honestly, I'm sure YouTube already has it in their help files by now. I'm now wondering also what that will do in terms of inserting automatic ads and monetization. I do know that when we do our podcast, Cyberpunk Independence, we try to take a break at certain intervals so that they are basically all we do is say, "Hey, we're going to stop for a break," and then we basically stop for 5 seconds, and then we pick it back up again. I know that YouTube has gotten better at automatically putting in ad breaks in video content. I guess this kind of opens up the field for a whole new. It also opens up the field for Google and YouTube to say, "Hey, advertisers, we now have another way for you to reach people. Give us your audio ads in addition to your video ads."
Yeah, I'm looking for the video now, but I'm not seeing the video. I'm sure it's up on YouTube by now. I don't think it was just a
Let's
thing,
see
because
here.
now when I click the button, it takes me to my own podcast feed.
And I'm looking now at their, they have like their podcasts page up and their best practices for YouTube creators. So it's on their creators page as well.
Yeah.
But now they are saying, like before it was, they were dedicated podcast people. They were like, "Hey, put your podcast up." Now they're essentially saying anyone who has any content on YouTube, turn it into a podcast. So, all right, I will look to see. Right. If you use YouTube Music, then that would also be a listening app for the podcasts. Smart. It's smart
Yeah.
all around. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, there's now going to be when you go to YouTube, there should be a podcast section that you can just click on YouTube. You don't have to necessarily use YouTube Music, is my understanding.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I'll
Yeah,
have to check that out
podcasts,
later
yeah.
on the
So
studio
you go
to see.
YouTube.com, and on the upper left, you should see a podcast button.
Cool.
But yeah, there, at least on your page, on your personal page, there's also a podcast thing. So things you make into podcasts will pop up there.
I wonder, and this is an interesting thing to me because thinking about it from TTRPG actual plays that have recorded or streamed, and then they've posted those videos to YouTube, but they didn't necessarily post those videos to YouTube thinking, "Hey, what if we made this a podcast?" I'm now wondering, how attractive is this if you've posted like all 8 sessions of your story to YouTube? How attractive is it now to go to those and say, "Hey, what if we made this a podcast?" I feel bad for anyone who does a podcast for me because I tend to be really expressive and forget that I'm supposed to do stuff into the microphone. So sorry about that in advance. But that would be interesting because yeah, like I've done I did a God Plane, which was 8 episodes, and it's just the video playlist is up there on YouTube. And now I'm wondering what happens if we turn that into a podcast? What is now the user experience from the creator side and from the consumer side? Oh, that'd be fun because that's less work than people think they need to do something. That's cool.
Yeah, you don't need 2 other different services to get a podcast out. You just upload once to YouTube, and your video and audio needs are met.
That's awesome. I like that.
And so, yeah. Yes.
What about Twitch? What about Twitch exports that we export to YouTube? What happens to? Oh, I gotta look in this later. Oh, because I export like Twitch highlights of things, and oh wow. Okay, that's a little mind blowing to think like, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's I enjoy when they take barriers to entry down. And this, like there's no additional cost involved because you are basically having the cost subsidized by the fact that you're on an ad supported platform. So you don't have to worry about that. And I like it when the barrier that's taken down is do what you'd normally do. and we will handle the rest on our end. So I really appreciate that.
Yep. And when you make it into a thing, into a podcast, that in the video, which I'm sure is up somewhere on their creative page, they say, okay, now provide a description of what this is, so when people go to this playlist that's a podcast, they can read the description, and they give you a lot of cues of information they want you to fill in. So definitely check out whatever videos YouTube has directly about it, and then hopefully we get other people kind of poking and prodding at this, and they relay their experiences to us. So
I'm now realizing like this for a lot of people who do stuff for TTRPGs, this could be a game changer for them, just adding one more level of access to their content that people find easier to consume. Because I know people who listen to, like, they basically say, like, I'm never going to catch up on Critical Role watching it, but I can listen to the years and years of it as a podcast. So, why not go in with that already and say, look, if you can't watch us, that's fine. You can schedule us and listen to our episodes. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine having a place to go and you don't have to understand something like RSS feeds or stuff.
Hey, I love RSS feeds. You shush.
Nothing wrong with it.
I work in front end. I work in web development, so I love all this stuff. Okay, look.
Yep, listening to audio at 1.5 or double speed. Yeah.
I loved when YouTube added that to their videos. And I guess for me, I'm also going to be curious about, because there also is the metrics and the analytics behind it. And one thing that I'm sorry, I tried to say a word and it didn't come out. One thing YouTube does with their videos is, and I've noticed this when I was looking up Streamer.Bot tutorials, is you can find the hotspots where people kind of, like, you almost know going in where that part is. That's where you want to hang out and pause. I do wonder, for people who are able to then look at the analytics of their podcast or their video later to see, like, what moments were like pivotal or rebound and watched a lot. And, that would be like, those are the moments you can see your audience really connected with. Or, and more likely in reality, like the phone rang and they basically just had to rewind it and listen to it over and over again. But I'm curious to see how those analytics work on the back end as well.
Yeah. So everyone, make podcasts so we can look at your work and see what happened.
Yeah, everyone, right now.
Right now, just do it. We want to know these things.
I'm basically like
be playing with these things. Let's not fool anybody.
I want to. Yes, I want to hear. I want to hear the Tech Friday playlist now for podcasts.
Yeah, that's something I thought about too last night. Thinking about this announcement, is that how do I change this? Because Tech Friday is a lot of demonstration of programs on the screen, but can I do a separate thing that is just more concentrated on audio? And what does that look like? And how is that useful if I don't have a screen to show off a program in? Right.
But I also realize a lot of podcasts out there will, sadly, you're actually many steps ahead of most of the podcasts out there, because the podcasts will just say, yeah, well, I saw on MSNBC, and they won't provide a link. They won't provide a segment. They'll just say, yeah, I saw it. So I'm supposed to go find that? No, not at all.
Right. Yeah.
So I appreciate that you're already worried about, well, wait, what about the veracity of my information? If I'm just saying to do a thing, like, I want to be able to show them to do the thing. So that's a fair point. And that is where the video format for especially tutorials and live things does work better. But, podcasts, you say?
Yeah. Show notes are key. Yes, they are. Exactly.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Yes.
Show notes, please put, if you go back and check your video, put in like timestamps, or if you encourage your community to be the kind of commenters that put in timestamps, encourage them to comment with timestamps, because like that way I like to knowing what other people's favorite points are. But I always do when I export my streams, because I try to cut out the chatter in the beginning, because that's like easily 10 to 30 minutes of me just rambling on before I ever even play the game. So I do like to add the contents there. So yeah, I want to see. I'm curious, and that may be something that I check out this weekend to see how well that works.
Yeah, I may just try it with a couple of videos, even if they're not built for podcasts, just to see what happens,
Yeah,
and then I delete it right away. No one ever sees
exactly.
it,
Well,
right? But
it's
I
always an
gotta
option
try
for you.
it,
Yeah.
right?
And I'm also curious, like if you subscribe to a channel and they now do podcasts, do those also pop up in your subscription? I have, Discord bots that are keyed into my YouTube. Like anytime I post something new to YouTube, they post it.
Hmm.
So if I do a podcast, does that also count as something new in the feed? You know, can you then make playlists of others' podcasts? Because that is something that Spotify will let you do. You can make playlists of episodes. So it's essentially it's going to open up a wealth of things because I always think about YouTube is the place where people now go for music, not just music videos, just music as well. So now also saying, well, hey, if you're already used to the YouTube ecosystem, stay there for your podcasts. May as
Hmm.
well. Yeah.
And okay, we are approaching time here,
Oh,
so
whoops.
no, it's fine. I like if you can stay longer, I can stay longer. It's a Friday. I can keep going. So if there are any questions on anything we've covered, please put them into chat. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up with some final thoughts on things and that. And I have a bunch of promo stuff to do for myself. So
Oh yeah. See, I have a staggeringly free weekend, so I'm very excited about that.
yay!
And like I said to DC, I sent a DM and we talked about before the broadcast, just the Stream Deck adding new dials for their Stream Deck Plus
Oh yeah, that's right.
is
We were going
is
to talk
really,
about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was listening to the one that you had Steven on, Steven Joy's, and talking about the Wave XLR, and I was like thinking about how I completely agreed with what he was saying about how like it just handles things so well in the Wavelength software. So I was enjoying listening back to the previous one because I can't always watch or I can't always make it. So yes, purple dye. Well, they've released Stream Deck in white as well, which you really need to have that matching your aesthetic because I can't have white things around because I eat too many like Cheetos. But yeah, you could basically now have different color dials for your Stream Deck Plus if you're into
Yeah.
dials,
And
which I know some people are into dials and push buttons.
yeah, if you like turning knobs, you can turn a lot of different knobs. Uh,
Okay, see,
yes, I want my Stream Deck pillow
I
too from their
definitely
April
want that Stream
Fool's
Deck
thing.
pillow. Oh, they need to make that a product. They
See?
they need to make that a product. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but
look, I mean, yeah, everyone's going to customize their Stream Deck Plus with the dials, and then we'll have a whole bunch of deck pics showing up online. It'll be fantastic. Can you imagine the Elgato account tweeting on the actual Twitter.com? Show us your deck pic.
yes, and uh, so but before we started, Brian and I were looking into the dials, and you can apparently get them with a new purchase. I know they said that you should be able to get them separately at some point, but we couldn't find the link to just get them separately right at the moment. So maybe there was an error. Don't know, but eventually, like there's different colors. So I know I'm getting four different sets because I want each not dial
Do you
to
want
be a
each
different
app,
color.
each source? Oh my goodness. So hang out and wait for them to become, because I suspect that they're giving away a free set with new Stream Deck Plus purchases. So I strongly suspect that they're trying to hold
Hmm.
for those. But yeah, everybody don't buy yours yet. Just wait and then hit up DC after he goes out and buys like 36, wait, 32 Stream Deck dials because yeah.
Well,
But yeah, you know,
I'm
like
guessing they'll just sell them in packs of four. One color in packs of four, and I can't mix and match.
yeah, so
So, yeah, I'll
but
have a
maybe you
lot of
could,
different colors.
like you could match the dial to the icon. Like for pretzel, you can get the bluish one because it's kind of blue green.
Yeah,
For that's going to be trouble. But I'm looking forward to someone who does like the white Stream Deck Plus with their pink like setup, because I do see a lot of lovely like pink and pastel computer setups. So it's interesting to look at these tools, and I've always thought about that with peripherals, where we went from everything being beige plastic and beige metal to, oh no, your peripheral is now an accessory even as it's a tool. And I never give much thought to it, but yeah, like, the Stream Deck Elgato has an aesthetic, and they're just like, yeah, you've got to make sure that everything looks nice. Even though in most cases your camera is not going to see your setup, but you want to feel good when you look over and see all of your things happening. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. So there will be some knob sharing going on. Got it. Yes, Rex. Indeed.
Okay. It's right there. It's right there below me, and I'm still like, okay. That's what it says.
I will share my knobs. I got glittery unicorn skin.
The
for my
sun
Deck. Awesome.
is still up, y'all. Okay. Well, not for Steven, but anyway. But yeah, I've been keeping an eye out for questions, and I haven't seen many.
Yeah, but it is after 5 o'clock here on the East Coast. This is true.
That's true. That's very true.
All right, so let's wrap this up. And thank you all for being here. Herb. Oh wait, how much do you charge to set up Streamer.Bot?
Well, this is the same thing that happens anytime anybody asks you what your rate is. Like, I don't know. But I did say earlier that I do plan to, just like I did with Streamlabs chatbot, I do plan to write a little bit about what I do. I may not write it to the extent that I did that document, because that document was a lot of work, but I will write what I do, because that hopefully will help demystify it. And also, there are some very, very good videos. Some of them are tiresome and some of them are awful, but there are some very good videos on how to get it doing basic stuff. But yeah, I maybe will create a section in my Discord for Streamer.Bot chat for people who are interested in it, because it's
like we said earlier, you can export your actions and then just show people what they need to change for them in the actions, and then you import it. You have everything, and then you go, oh, I just need to change this line of code here, and you don't need to understand the rest of it.
Pretty much.
Because I don't understand C#, and I know there's actions out there that have all the C# stuff. And I look at these videos, I'm like, nope, not me. And so
yeah, this is very much
like, okay, you just need to change this here, and to me, that's very useful.
Yeah, and a lot of the videos will say, at the, there's going to be a link to how to get this action. So after you've watched me set it up, you can import it yourself and then change these 2 fields, and you should be ready to go. So yeah.
Yeah. And let's see. All right. So thanks all for joining us. I think we'll wrap it up here with plug every single thing you got going on.
Well, hi, y'all. I am Brian. I am Urban Bohemian on pretty much all social networks. On TikTok, I'm Urban Bohemian _, because, well, somebody already had the name. I'm a variety streamer on Twitch. I stream on Tuesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Coming up tomorrow is probably going to be the Magical Mixture Mill. I also have a Nice Death. I've got some Destiny. I haven't copped into that in a while. And always some good Power Wash Simulator and Placid Plastic Duck Simulator, which is also fun. You can also catch me on Rivals of Waterdeep. I play Virgil, Storm ASMR Sorcerer. We are coming back every other Sunday as we close out our final season. And you can also hear me as playing the Netrunner DeRoss on the Cyberpunk Independence podcast. Check out basically me on Twitter to find out all about that, get all my links, or go to urbanbohemian.com and you can pretty much get my blog thoughts and things. I recently wrote an article about why Q wants to bone Picard.
It's a great article. Check it out. That came across my timeline. I'm like, wait, what? Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. Yep. So, and I've been your host today, DC. You can find me everywhere under DC Lasair. That's DC Lasair, all combined together. Exclamation mark DC into my chat brings you to my links. Find all my links at dclasair.bio.link. I have templates up in Notion now for the TTRPG space. I recently made one for actual play productions. Please check that out. It'll take you through pre-production, production, and post-production and steps. It was a lot of work, and I am giving it away. So, if you want to donate something to me over my Ko-Fi, that'd be great. But don't feel you have to. So, yeah, go to the links that are in chat. And also, I signed up for the Notion affiliate program. So the only way I get money through Notion is if you go to the link that I'll post it in chat and you subscribe to Notion on either the Plus or Business plan, and then I get some of that subscription price returned to me, but I don't get anything for my templates. I just want to make that clear, that it's only if you subscribe to Notion using my link do I see anything. But my templates are at no cost, so please use them. And thank you so much, Rex, for liking the templates and looking at them and using them. And if you want to talk to me about the actual play production templates on whatever you got, please let me know. I would love to make this resource as widely available as possible. And once you hit that duplicate button in your Notion, these are yours, and you can change whatever you want and need to for your production. So go in, look at those. Oh, did you have something, Herb? Okay. What else? What else I got going on? Let's see here. Tech Fridays every Friday. Come back. I'm here noon to 2 Pacific, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Usually playing video games, which currently we're playing Dredge, which is spooky boat game. And delightful. I love it. I love spooky boat games. I love spooky things in general. So being on a boat is awesome. And Fridays, Tech Fridays. Once again, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and we go for a couple hours. And then these get posted up on my YouTube sometime over the weekend when I actually have time to get to it. So, also, if you go to my Twitter, I do have a new pinned tweet if you want just direct links to everything instead of going to my bio.link page as linked. Check out my pinned tweet because that has everything there as well. So feel free to contact me. There's business emails, all that fun stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Thanks again to Urbanbohemian for being on. I will see you all back here on Monday. Thank you very much for being here. Please be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and we'll see you next time. Bye.